Nicola-Sturgeon, do you remember her? She was the most effective politician in recent Scottish history. She secured repeated mandates from her electorate and for a long time seemed like she simply wasn't going away. That was all until she took the decision to try to pass the Scottish Gender Recognition Bill, which would have removed doctors from the process of changing gender. However, the bill led to her downfall. One might think that the Labour Party would learn from such a lesson, but it seems not. New plans from the party suggest it would abolish the need for a panel of doctors to approve someone's request for a gender recognition certificate. While the reform would still require one doctor's approval, it would certainly make obtaining the certificates significantly easier. Well, I'm joined now by my panel, former Brexit Party MEP and current sister, Annunziata Rees-Mogg, and the author and broadcaster, Amy Nickell-Turner. Amy.
Jacob.
Doesn't the requirement to have a panel decide actually protect people who have a desire for a gender recognition certificate from all the fears that we've discussed before about men just dressing up as girls and using the girls' toilets?
Well, I love it when this argument comes up because we get to remember when it went through in Holyrood and we get to remember that it had cross-party support and that it was
and then
actually
Alistair Jack stopped it.
Originally the brainchild of Theresa May. So this is not a left-wing woke idea whatsoever.
All sorts of things have been the brainchild of Theresa May that we wouldn't necessarily support here.
This is a very sensible amendment to obtaining a gender recognition certificate, which is basically paperwork. It's things like your birth certificate, your marriage certificate, and your death certificate. And obtaining that more easily is just...
But isn't this a safeguard that protects people with your opinion? Because if you take the criticism of gender recognition certificates, it's the idea that a boy tomorrow morning could wake up and say, I'm a girl, and go make a nuisance of himself in the girls' changing rooms.
No, because he could go in the... This is nothing about changing rooms. This is
because once people
birth
have
certificates, death certificates, getting married.
But it's about
with
accepting
dignity.
somebody as a different gender.
I don't think so. Only 2% of trans individuals in the UK even have a gender recognition certificate.
But
that shows that it's very hard to get one and that people live
but if this makes it easier,
without one.
If you make it easier, then all the abuses, the male prisoners who decide to be women because life's easier in a female prison.
I really think that...
All these concerns melt away if you've got proper checks.
No, the prison service is a separate argument because that's all done case-by-case basis. When you apply for a gender recognition certificate, you still have to have supporting material. You can't just say, hey, like that trivial example that you gave. But it's just that it's not as highly medicalised and it doesn't take as long and it's a more simple way so that people can get married and
it might not be highly medicalised, but it's also not at all well thought through. That there are already numerous questions about what Annalise Dodds actually meant and how it would work in practice. That she says you'll only have to see one doctor. Well, you can't go straight to a specialist, so you have to go to a GP. So is the professional deciding, your general practitioner, rather than someone qualified in a relevant area? They also haven't begun to... They carry on in her statement with Labour Party as the party of equality while protecting single-sex spaces. Well, if without any surgery you can decide with the say-so of one doctor and not having to convince a panel or anyone else that you have changed your gender, you are then legally allowed into every single-sex space of the other gender.
But
there is no way to protect it. You are also legally allowed to fulfil all the quotas for equality for women, and that is not fair. We've
had this conversation before, and you've said that you think there are men that are ambitious enough to want to have an F on their birth certificate and death certificate.
There definitely are in sports. Clearly in sports there are.
We've already seen it.
There are lots of men who have pretended to be women so they can win at sports.
I do not. I think there are lots of...
We've seen it.
There are transgender athletes who may look gender non-conforming, but they're in the minority as well.
If
you were right, the England women's football team would be all biological men. And it's not. This is not a problem.
No, but in most sports you can think of an example of someone who has
swimming
done that.
and tennis
and darts and...
What, that there are transgender
Yes, who have
competitors?
different
There will be a
physical
minority.
abilities.
But then they do as well as men, because they're basically men.
Absolutely not.
It's
So
true.
there was the case of Leah Thomas. She won the college swimming competition. She went back the next year. She came second. People only have a problem with
but how
transgender
far-
athletes when they win.
No, where did she come as a man?
I have no
5,000.
idea. I have no idea.
That's the thing. As a man, she was useless.
But
and then pretending to be a woman, she won. This is deeply unfair.
It's deeply unfair
It's
that you would
incredibly
say that
unfair
Leah
to
Thomas
women.
is pretending to
Yeah, I
be
would.
a woman.
To
I
women.
never thought of myself as a feminist, but I'm afraid this does make me very passionately feminist. That this is undermining all the fights that my gender has had for the last 50 years to correct the wrongs of hundreds of years. We fought for equality, and we are now seeing it being lost by men taking our place in our own gender.
That is not in any way a threat to women in the same way that a patriarchy would be right now. I can't leave my house and feel safe. I can't go in my car and put my seatbelt on without knowing that it was designed for a man. If I take a paracetamol, that's designed for a man's body. Medical misogyny, real-life misogyny, sexism in the police. There are so many things facing women, and transgender inclusion does not even
It's
top
making
the list.
it worse.
Does not even get in the top 100 of my concerns.
It clearly is. And when you have bodies such as the City of London saying that men who are saying that at that time they are a woman count towards all the targets and quotas for bringing women into the city, that is doing down real women.
All right, well, I've given the last word to my sister, so like family life, really. But thank you to my panel.